So yeah, as you mentioned, I'm John Fraser. I work for a company called PartsAsap, bigger company that most people don't know about, but we do new aftermarket parts for agricultural, construction, industrial. So think of us as like advanced auto parts, but for all vehicles that don't fit on roads. What I want to do is talk to you guys a little bit about the sort of ROI and success of our web extraction and what we're doing with that data from a product standpoint. And so before I do that, I have to tell you about our failures first. So this is going to be a little less technical than the last presentation. I apologize for that, but hopefully we will get into some technical details here. We had some initial success with web extraction and some scraping. Before my time, the organization started out with 1.5 developers, and their big focus was, hey, we want to look at our competitors' data, and we want to stay competitive with them out there in this new thing called e-commerce. And that's fairly new to our industry. As you might imagine, it's a little slower than, say, some of the other consumer electronic focused world in construction and agriculture. So they started out, they started building up some servers, they started scraping some websites using various technologies, and it was awesome. They had 40 plus of our competitor websites. They were ingested into a repository. I'll talk about what that repository is and the architecture about that in just a minute. And they were running these weekly, many of them for many years, and everything was good. It sounds like a success story until I get to the downside of everything that we just encountered. Major issues. Sites were constantly changing, as we all know. The web is modernizing. The people are looking at anti-banning type technologies. All the normal issues you'd get with some sort of web extraction. And our scrapes weren't immune to that. So then it became this issue of limited resources. We had 40 plus scrapes, we had 1.5 developers, and we had to choose between modernizing our business applications, customizing our ERP, or making sure we're getting competitive data coming in. So naturally, the competitive data fell to the wayside. Pretty soon we were down to 30 scrapes, 25, 20, 15, 10, and suddenly almost none of them were working. They would just die, we'd never recover them. And then, of course, when we were managing them ourselves, we had IP banning and some of these other issues. Now, so I came into the organization in 2022. I saw this internal architecture of what they were doing with competitive data. I said, wow, this is amazing technology. We just can't manage bringing in this data ourselves with 1.5 developers. Now, we've built the team up, but we said, look, we have to find a partner out there that can manage these scrapes for us. We're a business-centric organization. We're here to customize our ERP and make it as simple for us to sell parts and make it as simple for our customers to buy parts as possible. So we went and found a partner, in this case Zeit, to manage those scrapes for us. This isn't meant to be an advertisement of Zeit, but they were pretty amazing through this, so just bear with me. We gave them about 20 sites to do initially, and it was wildly successful. I won't get into all the details of it, but other than to say it's completely managed by them. The data just finds its way into our ecosystem, and then we can do with it whatever we want. And if a website changes, if there's banning technology that's introduced, they're handling all that for us. And that's exactly what we needed inside our organization. We just wanted the data and to do something with it. So after that first success, we ended up doing 5 additional projects with them, and we're scraping dozens and dozens of different websites today. This is about as technical as I'm going to get today, so I'll just talk a little bit about the architecture. I'm going to actually start at the bottom of these slides here and really just talk about the initial process that we went through with Zeit in this case. We give them the website. We give them a couple examples of some of the product pages. And what we did for them that it feels like they've really enjoyed is the fact that we give them product pages, screenshots. We show them exactly what fields we want to scrape. We tell them exactly in their schema where those fields should go. Sometimes the data that we're looking for is directly in the source. So we are also showing them some source code examples to say, hey, grab the product ID here. And they go to work. I'll talk about this later as a big win, but we're leveraging their standard schema. And if you guys go out there and do managed scrapes like this, I'd recommend either identifying your own standard schema or finding a partner that has a standard schema and use that. And I'll talk about the reasons why in a little bit later. Once we get that data, The real part of the secret sauce here is that we take that data and compare it to 200,000 internal product SKUs that we have. And we have an algorithm, looks at all sorts of different things, but we have humans verify every single match that comes in. And that's important because if we're selling a water pump for, say, $90, and our competitor is selling a water pump, or what we think is a water pump, for $105, we might think, hey, we have the competitive advantage. But that might not be the case. Theirs might be a water pump kit, and it might include some hoses, it might include an assembly, it might include some bolts. And so if we're not careful, we would make that match, and we would potentially be looking at our pricing incorrectly, and we might ultimately price ourselves out of the market. So a human reviews every single one of these matches. Once it's matched, we do a cross-reference, and that data is permanently linked in our system. So that is sort of the setup process. And of course, there's new products that come in with over time, and then we also have those products looked at by our product team, and those are constantly cross-referenced as well. Once we have that data, it's fairly straightforward pipeline. Competitor website goes into the Zeit managed feeds. We pull that out via the API. We don't even have to have our internal developers involved anymore. All we get is essentially the ID of that scrape. The business line puts that into the long list of scrapes that we have, and it automatically starts to ingest that data, creates the matches, and starts to build it into our engine. At that point, we take their schema, we translate it into our business language, our internal way that we store product data, and we ultimately put that at rest in our data warehouse. We're a Microsoft SQL shop, so we do most of it there. At that point, I won't give away all the secrets there, but we have an engine, essentially, that goes through and looks at all of that data, looks at things like pricing, looks at things like inventory rundown rates, looks at the product descriptions, and through that, it ultimately produces an output of recommendations. And those recommendations then are looked at by our product team, our pricing team, and a human ultimately will go in and make those changes in our product information management platform. You guys might use Salsify. We have a homegrown solution, but the idea is that we store that data there, and then that is proliferated to all of our different e-com websites, our different ERPs. Just some other use cases about the architecture here, above and beyond price, which was obviously our initial focus. Inventory monitoring. For competitors that were, I'd say, silly enough to include their inventory levels on their website, if we scrape them daily, we get to see their run rate of their products. We get to see how quickly they're selling out on items, and if they have hot sellers, darn, we better get out there and we better beat them on price, even if it's by $1, because we know that we might move from selling 2 a day to 50 or 60 a day. That's the fast-moving product piece. Same thing with new products. If we suddenly see a competitor bringing up radiators, we got to get into the radiator business, or we'll use that as an opportunity too. Our marketing team's using that for category discounts. We see somebody that's doing discounts on water pumps or John Deere 4020 tractor seats, whatever it happens to be. We can match those and stay competitive in the market. Otherwise, when our competition's doing a sale on something, we can almost perfectly predict a decrease in sales in that category for that particular week. And of course, any major price changes. Sorry, I'm a little sick, so I'm hoping that my voice is going to hold out here. The last thing I'll talk about is pricing. So obviously, we're a business. We're here to make some money. We want to offer the best pricing to customers, but there's circumstances that come up when when a competitive scrape shows us a price that doesn't even make sense. We might be buying the part for $40 and they're selling it for $40. There's something wrong here. Are we buying from the wrong supplier? Are we buying domestic and they're buying overseas? Is there a new competitor vendor that's come out that they're leveraging that we should be? So in these cases, we're also using it from a product and purchasing standpoint to say, hey, supplier, we see a competitor selling this for what we're paying for it, and they're probably not in a charity. They're making some money on it. We need a discount, or we need to find the supplier that they're buying from. So for the folks that care about results and ROI in the room, here's kind of our results. We're on a major merger and acquisition spree across the country here, all of North America, in fact. But just organically, we've seen about a 20% year-over-year growth just by refining our pricing and refining the products that we introduce. We've introduced more than 40,000 products as a result of having this engine and having the competitive data available to us, impacting our prices and products. In addition to that, I believe in competition, and competition is good for the consumers. So when we can reduce our prices and sell more product and get it to a price point that more customers can buy, that's a good thing, frankly, for all of us. And it's also about maintaining our margins. So if we have issues maintaining margins, we can go back to that supplier like I talked about before. And at the end of the day, I'm here today because I have a very happy CEO and board that is impressed with these types of results. And this isn't novel. This isn't, I talk about the secret sauce engine that we have, but we're not talking any level of sophistication that Walmart was talking about just a few minutes ago. We're talking really, really basic information. The average price of competitors and comparing it to ours. We're looking at the lowest price of a major competitor, making sure we beat them by $1 on Google. These are not business rules that are overly complicated. It's about having the data and being able to do something with it in a rapid time frame. Lessons learned. Obviously, we started out trying to do it ourselves and failed miserably, but it was a great idea and we needed to expand upon it. So there's some lessons here that you can learn from. For us, managed scrapes were the way to go. We're not a tech company. We're here to serve the business. We're here to serve our customers and our employees. And trying to maintain 50, 60, 70 scrapes didn't make any sense for us. I talked about this before, but leveraging that standard schema when you can, particularly when you have developers involved, I can't imagine the difficulty you would have if you have a different schema for every website that you manage. With Zeit in particular, again, not an advertisement, they're not paying me to be here, having their developers know the schema that we're asking them to extract the data into made sure that over the last 2.5 years, we've had one developer reach out one time to ask us a question about how to fix the data and make sure that it's in the right structure. Otherwise, every single use case, and we have hundreds, websites change, and we have dozens and dozens of web scrapes today. They just manage it on their own. It happens so frequently now that I sort of ignore the tickets that come out to say, hey, there was some data integrity issue, but don't worry, we're on it. One time out of 200 or so. The other thing that I'll say is scrape the data now, even if you're not using it. So when we started this, it was all about price. But we also extracted description data, attributes, subtitles, shipping costs. And even though at that point we weren't at the level of sophistication, now we are, and we have a larger team, and we can do something with that data. And having that historical data for months or years in advance gave us the data to do some really good predictive analytics on it and to make improvements. Whereas if I say, okay, now I'm ready for descriptions, let's go and pay Zeit a bunch more money to go extract this data for us now that we're ready for it, and we're touching all the feeds and we're introducing all this risk, whereas if we just had the data, we're just collecting it over time. The other thing I'll say, and this is maybe something Zeit wouldn't want me to say, but it's not a managed extraction is not for every use case. There's times where I asked our partner to scrape a website, and stupid me, I pay them a bunch of money. We do it once or twice, and then we say, oh, that data's crap, and we don't want to do anything with it. It doesn't make sense for us to continue to pay for it. There are use cases where you can use AI today. Get that sample data first, make sure it's valuable for you before you put it into sort of a managed service that way. Some future projects that I can talk about, and I probably picked up a few more future projects after listening to the Walmart presentation here. We did a lot around pricing, but now we're shifting more to product. And I saw some really cool stuff in the last presentation that I'm going to take away. We need to look more at our competitors' descriptions. We need to look at ways to improve those product descriptions in-house. And frankly, we're a little bit behind on attributes, and we want to get caught up in that space. We also want to start leveraging marketplace data. We've been doing largely competitive websites, but not much on eBay, Amazon, Google, et cetera. We have a big opportunity there. And of course, there's lots of partners that can help us get that data. We need to take input from other data sources, Price Spectre is one of those data sources, but there's a lot of data sources out there as well that we want to start taking advantage of and blending that into our product information management system. And then we've seen the recommendations from our algorithms become so accurate over time that now, even though I said we've always had a human involved, there's some simple use cases where we will be moving forward and leveraging technology to automatically do some pricing updates. And we'll probably put some restraints and bounds on that, and we'll probably still do some review. But the accuracy that we're seeing that we should be adjusting our prices up and down, and the real live results that we've seen as a result of that is truly paying dividends. So we're excited to get to that next level. It's not on here, but I think AI does play a role here. And I know AI is like the new blockchain. Everybody wants to use AI for everything. But I do think that there's a valid use case, especially if you have humans in the loop, like our last presenter was talking about, where you can leverage AI to further enhance and improve some of this capability as well. So not on the slide, but I think it's a big opportunity. Not sure how I'm doing on time, but want to open it up for some questions. Pretty open book. Happy to talk after the presentation as well.
Thank you. We have time, and that's a great talk. A few people were asking about the matching. How do you ensure quality? How do you ensure humans don't make mistakes? Could you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, well, it starts with a confidence algorithm, essentially, that gives us a % confidence match. It's looking for even keywords like kit or assembly or those types of things to help us understand, is there a potential mismatch in this product? But at the end of the day, yeah, humans make mistakes as well. So it starts with the % confidence, and then we have humans that are experts in the different product categories actually doing those reviews. That seems very labor intensive. It is. However, think about 50 or 60 websites that we're doing. And now imagine that that's just one time for those products that we care about. And so that one-time investment of the human capital to do it, for us, is worth it to make sure that we have that proper matching, especially if we're going to get to the point of automating some of this price adjustments.
And I assume that this human in the loop, it doesn't match, they don't check everything, right? Some of it happens if the confidence score is high enough, it's purely automated.
Every single match is addressed by a human today.
Okay, so quite high quality then.
Yes.
Do you think you'll replace humans for some of it sometime soon?
Maybe. In fact, behind the scenes here with the Walmart presentation, I was chatting with a few of my developers and just kind of talking about some of the cool stuff there. And I do think AI does play a big role. We're using AI in a couple of different use cases today. We haven't used it in this case, but I think AI could play a role in helping increase our potential matches and confidence. There's not that many large competitors popping up daily for us. So I don't know that it'll completely replace the human capital that's involved there, just because that initial investment is so vital and is so important. And frankly, we're also educating and teaching our employees about some of these other products, and they're looking at the descriptions, and in that process, they're also improving the quality of our own data. So there's value beyond just the match itself that I think we're taking advantage of.
Super. Can you tell me a little bit as well about like that initial step where you decided to no longer do it in-house? I think this is something that we see a lot of startups build it in-house first and then sometimes reach a tipping point. And we had a question as well about what factors were important for you when looking around for a partner?
Yeah, in fact, somebody before I get up on stage was talking to me about this. So I don't know if they asked the question or not, but for me, it was about having a technical partner that could set it and forget it. There was another competitor out there, Tuzite, that wonderful sales pitch, wonderful salesperson, but the handoff to the technical sort of sales team, it just didn't give me the confidence that I could truly set it and forget it. And again, not an advertisement for Zeit, but I will say that it truly has been a set it and forget it scenario. In fact, my biggest problem is giving you guys money fast enough to get us those websites fast enough, which is an ironic problem to have.
Super, thank you. And I think we might have some questions from the audience.
I have an analogy kind of when it was like Amazon Prime Day. I went on like Google Shopping, and then like Best Buy for a lot of the deals, they just happen to have the same price as Amazon on Amazon Prime Day. And Amazon refreshes like pretty much second by second basis. Going into your business and your feeds that you're getting from Zeit, how often do you do it? Have you find any issues with like stuff not being streamed? And then you're getting like lag in the data you receive, so you can't come up with the best prices for your website, for example, in time.
Yeah, great question. It depends on the site that we're looking at. It depends on the volume that we can do and the number of products that they have. If they're a small volume site that offers a ton of products, we're stuck, scraping them or extracting that information at a cadence sometimes monthly. And in other cases, it's a high volume site. They offer fewer products. The ability to extract that data more frequently, daily, weekly, makes sense for us. There's no doubt that we're missing some opportunities to, say, be competitive with a flash sale that might be occurring on Amazon or some of our other competitors. But we're not necessarily doing this as something that is meant to be a daily price adjustment. We also want to create some level of stability for our customers because they don't also want to see that they bought it for $92 today and then tomorrow it shows up as $89. So I don't want you guys to think or take away that we're adjusting these prices on a daily, weekly, or sometimes even a monthly basis. We'll take in these recommendations, look at things over time, normalize that data over 50 or 60 competitors, and then use that as general guidance to make sure that we're being competitive. Now, I will say that on certain high-flying items, for some reason, John Deere 4020 tractor seats are like the hottest selling item in the world. We will monitor those much closer and we will take action on some specific products like that because they are such a hot seller that if you are not price competitive and you are even 1 penny more than the competition, you'll see that go from 100 seats a week down to 2. And so in some of those cases, we are a little bit more price conscious.
And a few people were asking about, scraping a volume of sites like that. Do you experience many breakages in the scrapes or banning issues were a problem or a concern for you?
Yes. Yes and yes and yes. And they're Zeit's problem, not mine. And they've done a fantastic job of getting to them. The nice thing is that even if it takes them a few days to get, a particular site fixed, we're not leveraging this data in that real-time way that the previous question asked about. This is something that we're looking at price trends over time. And even if one site broke for 1 week, it's not one of those scenarios where our entire algorithm is broken. We simply just have one less data point in the algorithm that might impact our ability to look at that price. But it's no longer this scenario where we invest all this time to build 40 and get it down to 2 functional ones and then have to reinvest all this time. It truly is that set it and forget it scenario for us.
Super, thank you. Any other questions? No, I think we'll wrap up there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about the voice.